Hi there and welcome back. So today, what keeps coming up in my awareness today is the word resentment. So I thought we would cover this today because I keep getting messages about, especially I think around my mum. I don't talk about my dad all that much, but around my mum. And, some messages I get have concerns over how she would feel if she ever stumbled upon these videos or if she ever stumbled upon my first book. There's also concerns that maybe they're bitter with me now because of all of this. And so let me walk you through it all because there was so much coming up for me today. So much beautiful information that wanted to be shared. Now, remember that everything I share here is for you. It's for you to be able to see yourself. And in seeing yourself is that you can make different decisions, or you can start to become more aware or awaken. So what was coming through today, firstly, I wanted to walk this person through what's been happening with my parents so that they don't have to worry that they're ever going to stumble over my YouTube channel or any of my books or any of that. So when my daughter was born, and this was over 12 years ago now, my parents had asked to come and spend they wanted to come and see her when she was born. Now, I do not remember this conversation at all. I really don't. After, my daughter was born. Apparently they called and, mum said that they wanted to come and meet her. And at the time, when my daughter was born, I had told a few people, actually quite a few people were offended by my words and my actions at the time. But when she was born, all I wanted to do was settle in with her. I didn't want input from anyone outside. I didn't want my parents, I didn't want my husband's parents coming in and telling us what to do and how to do it and what we're doing wrong and all of that, because I had already grown up with all of that. People pointing out every single mistake that you make, So I had asked for some time. I didn't say don't come. To my mum at the time, I was teaching piano and the two front rooms were taken up with the piano and we only had the two bedrooms at the back. So it's such a small space. I really didn't have anywhere to put them. And so I said to them, look, before I start work, I have a couple of weeks where it's school holidays and the kids aren't doing lessons. You can come and stay then. But they saw that as, I don't want them here. And perhaps at the time I didn't, because when my daughter was born, I was still full of resentment towards them. Now, what I haven't shared in any of my stories was that when I came to Australia to settle in, I was about 25 years old, and I'd settled in and I was here on my own. And I had my beautiful boyfriend, the one I talk about, the first love of my life, all of that. At the time, in my human experience, he was coming over for us to create a life here. And in that week that he was about to get on a plane and come over here, my parents call up and my mum tells me that they're coming to live here. They're coming back to Australia to live here. Now, I had left South America because I had lived there for about 10 years and that's where I met my first boyfriend. And I had left there because there was so much feuding going on between my boyfriend and my mum. And it was all over control. Who got to control me now? Who got to own me now? Me. There was all this feuding going on. My mum didn't want to let go of me. And he was constantly fighting with her that I'm his now, if that makes any sense. It makes sense in my head. But anyway, this went on for years, at least 3 or 4 years. And that kind of led into one of my depressions. They were all fighting, It was like nobody really cared, about me, about my love of what I had to give, what I was here for. No one was interested. They were all too busy fighting with each other. And I went into this depression where I just shut everyone out. I was done. Anyway, eventually I came out here. They gave me permission. It was after that depression because my parents couldn't stand to watch me cry anymore. Like I said, once I started crying, the waterworks came, and I cried for like a year and a half. Like I couldn't stop crying. It was just everything that I had bottled up until that moment in my life was coming out. Because until it was from third grade in primary school was the last time I'd cried. So here I was in my 20s now, and it had all unleashed. So my parents said, you know, we'd rather you're not here, but we can't stand to see you crying anymore. So they let me come to Australia. They were like, okay, go, just go. So I came, and he was about to come. And the week before he was about to come, my mum said, we're coming to live permanently in Australia. And for me, that was it. I was done, because I thought, I've come all this way to get away from all of that, and now I'm going to have it here, where I am in Australia. I didn't want any more of that fighting. I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of all of that anymore. And at the time when my boyfriend showed up at the airport, I thought that was the reason I was breaking up with him, because of my parents. Now, what happened after that? They never came. My parents never came. They never had the intention to come. Their only intention was to break us up. That was it. So as you can imagine, when I found out a few months later that they weren't coming, I was furious. And that's an understatement. Because from there, for the next 7 years, I hardly spoke to them. I just wanted nothing to do with them, with my parents. Because I thought, how dare you? You know? So it was just out of spite that they did all that. Because my mum didn't like him and whatever. So they went to all that effort to make us break up. And then they didn't come. So when my daughter was born, all of that was coming up for me. I was so angry with them. That, yes, probably I, didn't want them there. I probably didn't want them there. I don't remember the conversation, to be honest. But I was very sleep deprived in the first few weeks, and I don't remember having that conversation. But when I look back on it, I probably did say, yes, I've got these 2 weeks. You can come and stay and be here for those 2 weeks. Why do I bring up this resentment in this video? Because most of my adult life, I lived with this resentment inside of me, with this anger towards my parents. Now, that wasn't the first time that I was angry with them. My dad was a workaholic. He was never home. He was always working. And so my mum was the one that ran the house. It was her rules. It was her way. Growing up, we had 2 sets of rules. One for me and one for my sister. So as I was growing up, I had to follow all these rules of you have to do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other. Examples. In the South American tradition, there's this, when you turn 15, where you have this big party, la quinceañera, for those of you who are Spanish that know all about it. When they turn 15, there's this huge party where they dress in a white dress and it all goes, it's a wonderful thing. Everyone's invited, but it's a big celebration. I was going to say it all goes off, So I grew up with the rules that you're not allowed to wear makeup till you're 15. You're not allowed to wear nail polish till you're 15. All these rules, silly rules, right? But when I turned 15, as soon as I started doing all of those things, my sister that was 5 years younger was given permission to do all of them. Now, these may seem like silly things, but when you grow up and you're the eldest, and I know all my cousins here in Australia went through it with me, the eldest in each house was always the one that copped the worst. When we got in trouble, we were the ones that were always smacked. And for every 10 times that we were smacked, the little one was smacked once. So I had already grown up with that, watching that I'm the one that always gets smacked, when it was her always instigating the problem, my sister, because I was reading or trying to learn or trying to do something, and she was bored. She wanted someone to play with. And I'm a loner. I'm very much, as a child, I just loved being in my own company, in my own space. That was my childhood. And then she came along and she was the opposite. She needed attention 24/7. But I grew up with that for every 10 times that I got smacked and I got yelled at, she got smacked once. You know? And how does that make you feel? And today I was sitting with that as that comment stewed inside of me. How would this make your parents feel if they heard all of this, if they read your books? And then I realized, for those of you that know me well enough now, I am not here to trash my parents. I'm not here to trash my mom. I'm not here to roast her. This is not what the videos are about. But as this anger was coming up inside of me today, and I was remembering all of this, my childhood, I thought to myself, yes, I remember now. How does it feel when I'm the one always getting smacked and watch that my younger sister doesn't? How does it feel when I'm the one that's always getting yelled at because I'm the eldest and I should understand, even though I'm still a kid? How does it feel when you've been given all these rules and they don't apply to the other children that live in the house? How does that feel? And today, just thinking about it, thinking of it as the child I was so angry inside. There was so much anger. And I thought, yes, that's what I came to experience. I came to know what that feels like when there is inequality in an environment, when we aren't treated equally. How does that feel? How does it feel when you're the one being punished all the time? And you're not the one that's causing the trouble. You're not the troublemaker. How does it feel? Frustrating, annoying, but most of all, it makes me angry. And today, as I was going through all of that, I was owning that anger for the first time. Because I lived my whole adult life angry about all of that. Never understanding that this was the experience I came to have. And seeing it for what it was. Now, coming back to when my daughter was born. Because this came up when I went to see my parents last year in September. And I got to find out, when my daughter was 4 years old, we had set everything up for them to come and visit, and they could stay as long as they wanted. Everything set up. They had everything they could possibly need to be here and to be a part of my daughter's life and to get to know her, and they could get to know them. And I called them. I was so excited to tell them the news. She's 4 and she's 2 days at preschool. So she had the whole week, my daughter, and they could be with her all the time and get to know her, and she would get to know them. I was so excited. And my mother-in-law was the one that set all of this up because she had space where she lived. And so they'd have their own little private space there. No one would interrupt them. They'd get good night's sleep, It was just really beautiful that my mother-in-law offered this. And they said no at the time, that they were done with traveling. Even though every year they had been 2 to 3 times a year to Mexico to see my sister. That was all right. But now, that my daughter was 4 and I really wanted them to meet her, they didn't want to travel anymore. And what did I find out when I went to South America last year? Now, this is how resentment works. When you don't resolve your issues. One of the first things my mum throws in my face is that I didn't want them here when my daughter was born. When you want someone in your life, you make space for them. This is what she said to me. And so I apologized. Because at the time, I was in a very different space. I was living out my human experience. And in that moment, I was full of resentment towards them, especially towards her. So I had to apologize. because I wasn't in the space that I am in now. And then I said to them, it's such a shame that when my daughter was 4 and you had the chance to come, you guys couldn't come because of all your health issues. And you know what my mum said? She said, no, it wasn't because of our health issues. When we wanted to meet her as a baby, you didn't want us there. We didn't want to come. We chose not to come. So they missed a whole year or 2 or however long, because they could have stayed. There was no end date to how long they needed to stay there. It's an unoccupied space. There's no one there at the moment. They have their own kitchen, their own bathroom. They have everything down there. They missed out on meeting one of the most beautiful human beings I have ever met because of resentment, because of their anger towards something that I did. Me. They punished her, my daughter, for something that I did. And she had no fault. She had done nothing wrong. So this is resentment, and this is how it plays out in the world. So don't worry about my parents finding out about any of these videos or getting any of this information and getting offended or bitter or any of that. Because one of my cousins told me a long time ago, and it was when I was deciding whether I was going to stay with my first boyfriend or not. It was in that week that I received that news from my mum that they were coming. She said to me, my cousin said to me, she pulled me aside and she said, you choose what you want for you, because people will get offended no matter what you choose. She said, if they intend to get offended, they will. Whatever you choose, she said, it doesn't matter. She said, choose for you. And it's only now, 30 years later, that I finally understand that beautiful wisdom. People will get offended because this is a choice that they are constantly making. This getting offended comes from a place of not feeling good enough, from not feeling worthy. And the reason I always bring up the other side, not just my side, is because there are so many people in the world still living in that resentment, holding grudges towards others. My parents could have had such a beautiful life here with my daughter, getting to know her, and she would have gotten to know them. And they would have loved each other so much. Because there's a different relationship between grandparents with their grandchildren. No matter what you've been through with your parents, there's a different, it's a sacred relationship. It's really beautiful. That transcends everything. It transcends everything that they've been through with you. It's a different love. It is so, so beautiful. And they missed out on that. Because perhaps at that time, my mum already felt like she wasn't worthy, she wasn't good enough, and that's why I didn't want her here when my daughter was born. And it had nothing to do with that and everything to do with my anger and my resentment towards her for all the different rules as I was growing up, for being punished 10 times more than my sister as I was growing up. For throwing me aside when my sister was born. That was my biggest resentment. That I felt from the moment my sister was born that I was no longer loved by her. I have a glimpse, a memory of perhaps being loved before my sister came. But once my sister was born, I spent my entire adult life feeling like I wasn't loved by her. I believed in my heart that she didn't love me. that she loved my sister, because they had so much in common. They were so similar. She could see so much of herself in my sister and nothing in me. I was so different to her. So different. And yet in so many ways the same. I see so much of my mum in me. For one, I have her eyes. But I also have this sense of when she really wanted to do something, she just did it. She didn't hesitate, and she didn't think twice and sit down and do all the pros and cons and all of that. She just did it. And I have that. Otherwise, all of these books wouldn't have been written. And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you just like nothing. No fear. That was my mum, no fear. She's the bravest woman I've ever met. Her and my mother-in-law. Both of them. Beautiful women. So that was my human experience. And my parents were already offended, and they'd already shut me out long before I even wrote my first book. So don't worry about how others are going to react. Don't worry about others getting offended. If they are going to be offended. Just like my cousin said, in all her wisdom, bless her heart, 30 years ago. It took me this long to understand. If it is a person's journey to be offended and not speak to you for the rest of their life and hold that grudge, that's up to them. There's nothing you can do. Because I apologized. I said I was sorry. I said I loved them. I said I want them in my life. But the door had already closed before I even got to South America. That door was already closed. I don't even know why they said yes to me traveling. What they were expecting, I'm not sure. But I felt as I walked in that a door had already been closed. And it was the door that I was there to open. That door of love, of unconditional love, of let's move forward in this love from now on. There's so much life to explore when you're in this love. All right, my beautiful beings. So embrace your anger. If it made you angry, embrace it. You came to experience it, whatever it is that you went through. If it made you sad, embrace that sadness. That's how it made you feel at the time. It's not right and it's not wrong. It's your human experience. It's what you came to experience. It's judgment that makes it right or wrong. When you stop to judge that I shouldn't be feeling that, or I shouldn't be saying that. But love sees only love. And in the next video, I'm going to share something really important that came up in When Love Leaves, that many of you may not know, but it's really important to have this information moving forward. All right, my beautiful beings, I love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages, and own all your feelings. You have a right to feel them. There's nothing wrong with feeling these beautiful feelings you've been given. They're there for a reason. All right, my beautiful beings, I love you dearly. Bye for now.